Greetings and welcome to this week's readings and lecture. Uh, this week we're studying ethics and the environment. So let's start off with asking the question, is the natural environment a stakeholder? Well, Boutillier in 2011 said that the natural environment can be affected by companies' activities and through channels such as climate change and such can have an effect upon the company itself. In 95, in his paper entitled Should Trees Have Managerial Standing, towards stakeholder status for non-human nature, Starrick proposed that the non-human natural environment can and should be incorporated into stakeholder management. He argued these things. One, the natural environment is a vital part of business environment. Two, the concept of a stakeholder is wider than just human, political, economic considerations. Three, the natural environment can easily be incorporated into the stakeholder management processes. And four, including the environment would bring more holistic, value-oriented, focused, and strategic approach to the stakeholder management. Is there a competitive edge for this? Well, the competitive edge is as far as nature goes, or natural environment, is the ability of the organization itself to produce goods and services more effectively than competitors do, thereby outperforming them. This means they must stay ahead in 4 areas. These areas are being responsive to customers, innovation, quality, and efficiency. And in doing so, utilizing the natural things. Looking at nature as a stakeholder again, in your book it states the natural environment should be considered a stakeholder without a voice. By definition, the natural environment should be considered a stakeholder since it has vested interest in the operations of the firm. Even though it cannot think, the natural environment reacts both favorably and unfavorably when actions are taken by the firm that have a direct impact. The natural environment itself, it rewards proactive environmental strategies by providing clean and natural resources, but alternatively, it also punishes when the firms are reactive by having the firms address cleanup and other additional associated costs of production when the natural environment's polluted. And we see this today. I mean, oil spills, people having all these costs for cleanup. But since the natural environment doesn't have a voice by itself, decision makers may not value it as a stakeholder. Now, it does have proxies, which are called NGOs. So, when a firm impacts natural environments, there's potential impact for other stakeholders. Looking at the utilitarian and Kantian ethics, we see that it does not include consideration for the natural environment since it's not a human being. So it's argued that what should be done is redefine a stakeholder. So if a stakeholder is a living being, then utilitarian and Kant's ethics would include the natural environment by considering the greatest good for the greatest number of living beings. And it should be a human's duty to consider and impact on all living things. Again, looking at competitive edge, or the natural environment as a competitive edge, there's a positive value that's added by considering the natural environment if it is integrated into strategic focus of the firm. By focusing on 4 strategic options, you'll be able to understand that there are many financial benefits of considering the natural environment to be a strategic stakeholder. Let's look at some strategies. We have the eco-efficiency focuses, which focus on the design process and reevaluation of the design of the product by considering all the products in the manufacturing process as a waste product. Designers could look at more eco-friendly ways to design and manufacture new products. We throw away things every day that can be reutilized and reworked into another product. Plastic bags, paper, broken glass can be, remelted and reformed. There's also beyond compliance leadership, which is a strategy that gives empirical proof numbers to the firm's stakeholders of their environmental commitment through the use of an environmental management system, or what we call EMS, or certification by the International Standards Organization. These firms are able to generate documentation that shows how they integrated the natural environment into the manufacturing process. In the textbook, I think it talks about Shell Oil being faced with a large negative backlash when it dumped the Brent Spar oil rig in the North Sea. If the firm uses natural environment to differentiate their products, they must ensure that the news is always positive as it relates to environmental issues. And if you'll remember all the bad press that Shell Oil was getting, it didn't help the company very much. There's also eco-branding, which is based on the concept that firms use their overall corporate environmental commitment to help brand their products as eco-friendly from a firm that is eco-friendly. So in other words, we use the best and most natural products to create what we sell to you. And it's through branding that the firms are able to help differentiate their products from any of their competitors. Strategy 4, environmental cost leadership. Okay, this is based on the belief that the reduction of manufacturing costs related to environmental proactiveness can be converted into lower prices for products and services. Although similar to strategy 1, which is eco-efficiency, the difference is that the environmental cost leadership uses the cost savings in the manufacturing process not to increase the profit margin per unit, but to lower the price of the goods and the services. And the net results a lower profit margin per unit, but the assumption is that it would be more than compensated by the volume or the increase in sales and the number of the units. In dealing with the environmental ethics and compliance and things like that, some companies have adopted what we call voluntary environmental compliance. They want to show evidence to their stakeholders that they're in compliance, but they don't want to go through a formal process such as the ISO certification and things like that. In the book, you'll learn the 13 recommendations presented by Ramus, which are traditional areas in which the firm could focus initially on environmental issues, from developing an annual environmental report to training the employees on environmental issues, voluntary environmental compliance. And this gives the firms the freedom to pick and choose which areas they'd like to focus on to support their environmental commitment. So in other words, they're not stuck into any slot. They have some choices. This we'll call it a buffet approach, gives the firms the flexibility to adapt a combination of activities which best matches the environmental vision that their top management has. Let's look at employees as environmental stakeholders. Catherine Ramus stated that a major reason for proactive environmental initiatives fail is the lack of commitment by the employees. And she has a remedy which includes the employees in the development of the environmental strategy of the firm. One would be initiatives that decrease the environmental impact of the company through policies of reuse and recycling. This can be called the first easy baby step of getting employees committed. It's a simple task to complete, yet, employees will be the first to see the results of their efforts. And it's always good as an employee to see that what you're doing is good. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel better about the company. So in other words, what you're doing is you're instilling pride in the employees by being able to claim to their friends and family that they have a program at work for reuse and recycling. 2, initiatives that solve environmental problems such as hazardous substance use reduction. 3, initiatives that develop a more eco-friendly product and service that uses fewer resources or less energy. Those are all things to be proud of as an employee. And if you're involved in it, it gives you a much more sense of pride in yourself and your company. Sustainability, environmental sustainability. This is the ability of the organization or a country to protect and protect the use of future resources by properly maintaining and protecting the resources that are currently being used. Sustainability can be defined based on 3 major components. 1, a system to ensure that sustainability management of the Earth's natural resources. 2, the development of social and institutional structures that would support the sustainable management of natural resources. And 3, changes in economic framework so that it would support the sustainable management of the Earth's natural resources. So it can be concluded that viability of all firms and natural environment in the long term is based on being a steward of sustainability. So in other words, if we take care of the environment will take care of us. And we see it every day. You see smokestacks at manufacturing companies just billowing out black smoke, carbon, and smut. Coal, the use of coal and gasoline. Eventually, we're going to run out of those resources. And what's going to happen for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren? What are we leaving them? Is it ethical that we take away nature as it is from them? Nature's going to fight back. Our ozone is already, it has holes in it. You have volcanoes going off all over the place, and that's caused by fracking, oil drilling. There's so much going on that affects by companies that affect the environment, which will not only begin affecting us, but will be a much worse problem down the road. So is it ethical for us to destroy the climate just to make money now? It's something to think about, isn't it? Thank you, and I will be with you in another lecture for next week. Have a great week. Enjoy your studies. And if you have any questions or problems, please contact me. Thank you.